my number 4 is Race for the Galaxy.
What?
Man.
Really?
Yeah, all the surprises.
Holy shit!
All the surprises gone. I should have remembered the name of the commenter. Oh, sugar. Right. Why am I even bothering to say
Internet 1.
Internet 1?
There we go.
So, explaining this in 60 seconds is going to be tough beans.
Not really.
Oh, all right then. Explaining this in 60 seconds is going to be easy beans. Right.
Come on,
So,
Gary.
in Race for the Galaxy, you are building your own section of the galaxy. Each round you will choose one of these role action cards to do. Will you be exploring the galaxy to draw more cards? Will you be developing to build developments which will help your engine? Will you be settling to settle worlds which will give you victory points and help your engine? Will you be consuming the goods on those worlds for victory points or for more cards? Or will you be producing more goods on those worlds? And interestingly, the action that you choose affects everyone else at the table. You get a slight bonus for picking it yourself. Yes, that is a rule. But I was confused with Puerto Rico then. But that's because this is where that came from. The symbology on these cards is infamously difficult to understand, but once you get it, it's a game that really wants you to grok it.
What does that mean, Tom?
That means when you have an understanding of the game so that you see beyond the bare level of it and understand the mechanisms so that you can make decisions almost intuitively.
The more you know.
That's probably an accurate description. The game ends when one player gets to 12 cards in their tableau, and then victory points are counted up. You'll score victory points for all the cards are worth points. Any goods that you've consumed to create victory points are worth victory points, and there are big 6-cost developments which get a victory point for every blue card, blue world in your tableau.
And when does the game end?
I said when I play 12
You
cards.
said one of the conditions.
Oh, good point. The other condition that so rarely seems to come up nowadays is when the victory point pool, which is bigger than that, runs out as well. You can pursue a non-military game where basically you pay for everything using... One of the cool things in the game is the kind of cards that are your options are also your currency to play cards. And that's like the non-militaristic way to play. Or you can play the military game where you start to build up your military strength, and that will allow you to play worlds that don't typically do anything except give you victory points, but you'll be playing them for free. So one of the interesting balances in the game is one player might slide towards military, and each turn they'll be settling and laying down their empire, grinding towards an end condition and just getting more and more powerful. Meanwhile, another player might have created a production consumption engine, and can their industry beat another player's warfare?
It's tending to be dictated almost by the starting planet, though, isn't it, to a degree?
Well, yeah, I'd say both the military and the production consumption game both steer towards a rush to end, whereas the military is designed to rush to fill your tableau with 12 cards, because you can play your cards for free without having to spend the cards.
Yeah.
And the production consumption is designed to rush to finish.
Drain the game of VP.
VP, yes.
Yeah, and one of the nice things is even within each of those games, there's different styles.
Yeah.
Like within there's also, you could just play the alien game. So I'm just going to play these really big victory point alien worlds, which are like the yellow worlds. Yellow is the best colour. And one of the things that makes this game so interesting and avoids this feeling of solitaire that Euros can get criticised for is that if I'm playing the military game, then everyone else at the table knows that I'm going to be playing Settle a lot. So, how can I, even though I'm not playing the military, how can you guys, even though you're not playing the military game, best leech off my...
Well, the opposite to that is that if they know that you're playing the military game and so you don't pay for your planets, they are less inclined to pay Settle because you get to do it for free.
Oh yeah, I mean they won't.
Yeah.
And it's got it builds into itself a really interesting metagame.
Yeah.
And it's quick as well. Like once you it will take a couple of games to learn the game, which isn't something that you say about games really anymore.
Yeah.
No.
But in the original game, it's 2 to 4 players.
It's fun.
And it's got a variant for 2 players, which is amazing.
Yeah.
I
think the 2-player version of the game now played with us because we know the game so much. I think we play it in about 20 minutes, maybe even less than that.
Well,
Well,
you can. I mean, the two biggest problems with this game, weirdly to go to the problems on the game, are shuffling, because shuffling is tedious, and because games are the currency, you need to draw a lot of cards to play a lot of cards, so you're going to get through the deck, and so especially with like 4 or more, as we'll get onto the expansions, players, you're going to churn through that deck, and you have to shuffle, and it's like Ticket to Ride, it's just tedious, which is, but it's the biggest criticism you can have. Well, the other criticism is that it's difficult to teach because of the symbology, but that's not because the symbology is flawed. It's just because there's a lot of it.
There's a lot.
Yeah, there's
Because
a lot
once
of
you
it,
know
yeah.
the game, I never would have to ask what something does, and the truly complex things on the cards are even slightly subtitled.
Yeah.
But I would much rather have these beautiful, like semi-full art cards, and some symbology than your classic Magic the Gathering Netrunner,
Yeah.
where the top half of the card is art and the
the rest
bottom
of it is
half
rules,
is all the blinking rules. There's a reason in Netrunner, for it, I imagine other LCGs are the same, that the full art cards are so pleasant.
Yeah,
Do you know
the
what I mean?
promo cards, yeah.
Yeah, exactly, because, and this game's art now is quite old, but I think it has a really pleasantly classical look.
There are
to
still
it.
a few of
Yeah.
them that are. It's a very much a sort of late 90s, early 2000 version of sci-fi kind of cool, awesome. What they thought it was awesome, I guess. If you know what I mean. It's almost got a little bit of like a Star Trek-y vibe to it, kind of thing going on.
Yeah,
In some of the artwork and stuff.
yeah,
Or like
yeah.
like maybe a little bit of Babylon 5.
Yeah,
Which is-
Babylon
Yeah,
5.
Babylon 5.
Yeah,
It's got a lot
good
of
one.
it's got a bit of Babylon 5.
Never
in
watched
there,
it, but
so-
yes, the word Babylon and the number 5 remind me of this game. Now, I've played this game, although this is now a couple of plays behind, but at the time of this list, I've played this game 783 times.
And
Now,
why is that, Tom?
and that's because online, we play it a lot online. I don't count games against AI, only games that we play against each other. However, having said that, of those 783 games, at least 200 of them are in person. So that's at least as well, because that's original race. And that is beyond any other game in my collection, apart from Netrunner.
Well, we used to play this a lot in the sort of
Early days
maybe
of board
but
gaming.
like 3 or 4 of us would play this, and the idea was that you'd play it 3 times.
Yeah, we would always play it in a
Yeah.
in a mini tournament format, really.
To try and
where
add
you-
up your points over 3
Yeah.
games, because you can easily have a game of Race for the Galaxy where the engine you want doesn't come out, and you just lose. And you can try and mitigate it by trying to like go down different paths, but more often than not, I think you could end up with a situation where like, right, damn, yes, first 4 cards in my tableau, all mining cards. No mining cards in the rest of the game.
Yeah,
Great.
But one of the
So-
one of the reasons that the tournament format works so well for that is because you can, just like in any card game, you can have a quote unquote worst draw or not play it as well or whatever, but it's how you manage those weaker draw games in race and how you manage to exploit your stronger games that shows a good race player rather than being able to win like one-off game. For instance, we played 3 games recently, and you narrowly won the first 2. Maybe like 9 points or something.
Yeah.
But then the third game, everything clicked for me, and I was really able to capitalise. So because certainly in one of the games, it went more in your favour.
Yes.
But I managed to claw pretty well.
Yeah.
In that regard, it's almost a bit like poker. Like you're going to get bad hands in poker, and it's about mitigating your losses, and you're going to get good hands, and it's how much can you make out of your good hand.
I think the game, if you play it right as well, the game can kind of help you reset, because of the way that you can use explores and the way that you can use certain windfall worlds to get you just that little bit of boost economy. Like one turn, you might settle a green or a yellow world just because you realise, right, I can produce next turn.
Consume trade.
Consume trade next turn, take all those cards. I've got another boost to my hand,
Yeah.
kind of thing. And you very even though you can be stuck in a certain rut when you're playing a game, you can definitely play Race to the Galaxy and not feel like that rut is unavoidable.
Yeah, really, I could probably count on 2 hands the number of games of Race to the Galaxy that I've lost through no fault of mine. Like, that I've done terribly in through no fault of my own. Do you know what I mean? Like usually there's a better decision you could have made.
Probably.
Like if you looked back over your game, or you certainly could have got more points somehow. Even like I mean, a massive part of the game is reading other people.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like we are, you know, there's the term, because one of the massive things in the game that's really hard to teach is like that consume trade. You know, where the good goes down on the world, you consume trade the good for a load of cards, much more valuable than exploring, and nobody else is getting, like hardly anyone's getting anything out of it. And that skill in going, you know what, Ben's going to settle this turn, so I don't need to play settle, so I'll play consume trade, and as long as someone settles, I'll be able to. This will save me basically a turn.
Well, the other thing with that is that if Ben has put down a Windfall World and he's thought, right, I'll settle this turn.
We should say
next
sorry.
turn.
Yeah, there's worlds, there's production worlds
Yeah.
that don't come with anything, but you can continually build things on, and Windfall worlds which come with a good on them straight away, but it's harder to get goods on them in the future. So like those are like the real like boost worlds, and the other ones are like the engine worlds almost.
Yeah.
So sorry, you were saying
so-
Ben's playing.
But if you know Ben's settled and he's put down a Windfall World, and if you've consumed trade, well that might screw up Ben's turn.
I might have
next
to get rid of
turn.
that card
Cards.
for like a
Yeah,
point.
like
Yeah,
your engine can work against yourself,
Yeah.
which is really interesting. Like the game, I always think the game does feel a little bit like running like a small star empire. Do you know what I mean? And like occasionally your tableau feels like it tells an interesting story. You know, like we've joked, we played a game recently where you started with a military world as your like beginning, so you were going to play this military game, and I started with a quite neutral, just currency based world. But one of the first things I did was to play a massive military technology card, and so suddenly your like ancient martial tradition was completely outdone by my dropships that my galactic developers had come up with, and it immediately changed the dynamic of that game. And that's why we played it. I mean, we've all played it hundreds of times.
Yeah, I mean, for me, the theme of this game, the theme helps it more than say the theme of Love Letter, because with Love Letter, I feel you don't need a theme with that. You just have.
Having said that,
you just have cards, and you know what you just know what each card does. You know what a 1 allows you to guess somebody else's card, a 2 allows you to see their card, a 3 allows you to do this. You don't need a skin on it really. This almost feels
if they
the
just
same
gave
way.
it a Game of Thrones skin, it would be it would be much better than the Love Letter thing.
Well, but it'd be exactly the same. It's exactly the same game, isn't it?
Yes, that's why there are
theme
so many
adds-
different love letters, but there is always still a veneer.
Yeah,
is what it says. But yeah, so you were
because
talking,
you
but
need
you were
to
talking
sell
about
the
race.
game,
But
don't
you were talking about race.
Where with race, for me, I quite often feel like you can do exactly the same. For me, the theme of this game doesn't make me want to play it anymore.
I think that comes across.
But the type of game, right? This card allows me to do this and this. This card allows me to do this and this. This card allows me to do this and
I
this.
think that's felt more when you do it from a economic points-based side of things.
Yeah.
Because certain cards just become, well, that's a card that gives me points.
Yes.
Whereas with military, I think it tends to fall more towards the thematic side of things. Especially if you're playing like as the galactic guys, and you're like,
Maybe.
ha rebel, that's fault
I
to
mean-
me, kind of thing. But
I mean, really, for me, the theme of this, it doesn't do anything. Like, love the game, really enjoy playing it, and I'm really glad that we have it, that we can play it online.
Though you aren't a theme man,
No.
it should be said.
Yeah, nine times out of 10, theme doesn't it doesn't. bring
Yeah,
much
you're
to-
much more a mechanics man,
Yeah.
which is interesting because I would say that this is mechanically one of the best games.
Oh yeah.
Well, I will read what I've got written down here now. One of the smartest card games I've played. Very steep leaning curve with one of the harshest in our collection, especially for a game of its length, but it's extremely rewarding. There are so many levels of decision making. Paying with the cards you use is a superb mechanic, quick enough that you can play multiple games. It's good in a larger group, amazing 2-player. The biggest problem is shuffling cards. It's quite interesting because we wrote this quite a while ago, so it's and can involve yourself in others or ignore. Yes, so you can look for that interaction and read the players, or you can just ignore that and just try and make your
play
best.
your own,
But
yeah.
yeah. So, because we'll talk about the expansions. Do you know what? We'll just talk about the expansions now really quickly. So I've played.
No.
So
Spoilers.
So I've played. So the first expansion, Gathering Storm, played 690 times, and the second expansion, Rumble vs Imperium, played 302 times. Both of the expansions increased the player count. They introduced a host of new cards and a couple of new mechanics. In Gathering Storm, it's the good little gold mechanic and the draft
Which is
variant.
awesome. Yeah.
In Rebel vs Imperium, it's the ridiculous takeover,
Which is terrible.
which is stupid, but does introduce the much better starting world thing where you get two choices of starting worlds. The cards that they add, though, are brilliant. Like, they both make the game just better. And
Weirdly, it almost felt like it had a little bit of an LCG thing about it, because like a little bit of power creep. Because playing the original game, it was like, well,
the Brown game
game is pretty good,
Yeah.
and so is Military,
and Alien.
and Alien to a
yeah.
certain
And that's
degree.
got weaker as the
But
expansions
now
have come
the
out.
Uplift, so the green game, is 10
Well,
times better than
yeah,
the
Rebel
other.
vs Imperium
Yeah.
remake.
But like Uplift, by that point,
Yeah.
Rebel versus Imperium means that the game is 10 times cooler
Yeah.
when you play it green way, because there's so many more victory
Yeah.
points available.
Yeah.
for
No,
that.
the
So-
expansions basically, I would say, are a must buy.
Yeah, that they really fixed the meta.
Well, they expanded the meta,
Yes,
didn't
yeah,
they?
yeah.
Like, the game would have been fine, but I don't know that I would have played it 783 times. I mean, and you can see that by the fact that it goes 783 Race to the Galaxy games and 690 Gathering Storm games.
Well,
We had played the game almost 100 times before we got Gathering Storm.
yeah,
So-
that's what I was going to say. Like, you've only played the base game
About 100,
93 times.
as in without the expansions, yes.
Yes,
But the
yes.
sentence only 93 times
No,
is...
no, I know.
It's weird to
I would
think-
call that, like, that's perfectly good value.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
weird to
Yeah.
think with this game as well. Obviously, the original Race to the Galaxy comes with a lot of cards, but that's not enough cards to some degree.
Mm.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
So to actually see more of the, and it's interesting actually as well when you think about it, because the more cards they add to the pool, the more cards there are for you to just throw away.
Yeah, that's why the Alien
Yeah.
game has got
Like,
weaker.
because in the original game, there's only a certain amount of cards. You probably want to play quite a few of those cards for your tableau,
Yeah.
so you're less inclined to spend on them. Whereas in this, there are probably a whole bunch more rubbish cards that you just don't want to look at.
Well, cards that
So-
don't gel with your engine. But yeah, no,
Yeah.
I think that's
And, I mean-
interesting.
Also, going back to like the LCG, like side
Power
of
creep.
like idea of it. There's only, I think there's only 2, maybe 3 cards in the whole thing that are identical.
There's 2 of every development.
No, but okay. There's 2 of every development, but there's no
The powers on a card.
2. Yeah.
Well,
There's no
each
2
world-
developments are
each-
the same, other than the
Actual copies themselves.
other than the actual copy themselves, which
Yeah.
which I'm not counting.
Okay, but there are 2, which is important.
But
Yeah.
I'm not counting that. Like
Yeah.
there is only there's only one in okay. Ignoring development's fine. That's a bad idea. Worlds.
With worlds,
then,
there are only about 2
I think there's
worlds
only
that
2
are identical.
that are identical. Yeah.
With a different name.
Yes.
Yeah.
and
but-
and it's not like you have to. Oh, what does that card do again? Because once you know the symbology, it's so easy to read.
Yeah.
And
And that's why it's
and-
worthwhile, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, there's a reason that I love Seven Wonders and this.
Yeah. Whereas with LCGs, it's like, what's that card do again? Can I have a quick
The
read?
and
How's that going to affect the game?
Well, it's because,
Even
it's,
though
because
else-
it's expansions, not.
No,
but
Yeah.
also because it's a shared deck.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? That's a big difference in that, like, even with an LCG where it's made massive strides from the CCG format, you can still have the feeling of, oh, you've actually bought like 3 copies of the starter set and every single pack. Oh, I only bought like 1 copy of the starter. There is a tiny element of that, whereas obviously Race, it's all just level playing field. So I would play this. I would play this any time, and I mean that. But a lot of people find the shuffling. Well, we've played it so blinking much that we hardly ever play it in real life. Basically.
Yeah.
Because the opinion
Um,
is, why am I playing this in real life when I could just play this on the computer when I'm at home?
Yeah.
And everyone's
However,
doing something else.
there was a time in our collection where this was the number 1 game. And I don't just mean it was the number 1 ranked game for me. I mean, this was the default. We just played this. I think if your board game collection is starting out and you don't want to buy a lot of games, then looking at Race for the Galaxy and being like, £30 for just some cards? Seems a lot, but there's a lot in here.
Yeah.
Uh,
Although now isn't
Roll for the Galaxy. A lot of
it-
people have said it's the replaced Race.
Yeah.
We've not played Roll because I don't feel that, although ironically then maybe Roll would be like the second wind for Race for the Galaxy, because then we would have an excuse to play it in real life, because we can't. However, they are also releasing expansions for Race to the Galaxy, and apparently the latest one for Race is the best one that they've done for ages, according to Tom Vassell. Although, weirdly with Race, they sort of restarted. Like, you're not supposed to play with the expansions and the new expansions, although he does. But so I would play this. This is almost like watching a film from when you sort of got into good films. You know, like in your late teens, early 20s, and you've watched that film a lot of times, and you understand that it's a really good film, and you really enjoy it. But you've seen it quite a few times. That's a bit how Race feels to me. How about you guys? How often would you?
I like playing it. I prefer to play it with 4 people rather than just 2. Or
However,
3.
you don't play any 2-player games, so
No, but I do. This is actually one of the only 2-player. This is
No,
actually one of the only
No.
2-player games that I do play, because if Matt comes round and we're like
yeah,
waiting for them to come,
yeah.
this is a perfect game to play that, because we both know exactly what we're doing. It doesn't take very long. It takes like 20 minutes to play with 2 of us. I mean, he'll stop me, but you know, it's just fun to play Race to the Galaxy kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I prefer to play it with more people.
Yeah.
Because I just like seeing everyone's little worlds come together, and I like that thing of, you know, it happens a lot when you play something like Seven Wonders as well, where you go, oh man, I just can't get this to work, or oh man, have you just seen what I've done? And you look
like,
at it and you
oh
go,
wait,
oh,
how many
how
cards do you
how
get
much
when
XP
you
did you get
produce?
back from the
Yeah. I really love the 2-player game of this. I think I almost prefer 2-player than
Oh, I would,
Then-
I
then
would,
three.
I would agree. It's the opposite of Seven Wonders.
yes.
But would you play it physically anymore, or would you just prefer to play it digitally?
I don't mind playing it physically, and I think, weirdly enough, I find playing it physically, I find it harder to look at everyone's tableaus and keep up
Well,
with what's
you
going on
don't
nowadays.
forget. You say that though, but we didn't. The amount that we've played this 2-player online compared to the amount we've played it 4-player online. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like, an online 4-player is hard
Yeah.
to keep track of everyone's. Like, basically in a 2-player, for the real interaction level, you want a smaller number of players, but the roles get even more interesting, weirdly, with more players.
Yeah.
But
I'll online I'll play this anytime. Really enjoy it. In real life, again, I'll play it.
it's like an old friend who you don't see all the time, but it doesn't upset you that you don't see them, because you know that when you do, it'll be like you got on, like it's not been years since you spoke to each other.
Yeah.
It's my Ellie Coggan board game.